Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. George Santayana. History warns us with a simple truth. When we fail to remember, we repeat. And after years of meticulous research, one conclusion stands out with absolute clarity. The followers of today's global anti-cult movement are the direct ideological descendants of those who once inspired Adolf Hitler. Many believed the defeat of Nazism in 1945 meant its end. But this belief was a misconception. The ideology did not die. It transformed. And today, it has evolved into far more insidious forms. The horrors of World War II forced humanity to create international safeguards, the United Nations, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. These structures existed because the world was determined to ensure such atrocities never happened again. Yet today, the very principles our ancestors died for, equality, freedom, democracy, are under greater threat than at any point since the fall of the Third Reich. To understand this danger, we must trace the lineage of ideas, a lineage that begins long before Hitler himself. To grasp the chain of events that shaped Nazism, we begin with Martin Luther, founder of Protestantism. Luther revealed corruption within the church and sparked reform. But he also held radically intolerant beliefs toward other Christian denominations and religious movements, even calling for the death penalty for Christians who interpreted Christ's teachings differently. Few Protestants today know the depth of Luther's anti-Semitism. In his 1543 book, The Jews and Their Lies, von den Juden und ihren Lügen, Luther claimed Jews were a curse upon the German people. He advocated burning synagogues and schools in honor of God and Christianity. He wrote that if he baptized a Jew, he would lead him to a bridge, hang a stone around his neck, and push him into the water. These extreme positions, which became part of Protestantism's historical foundation, helped nurture the ideological climate that later spread Nazism. Hitler admired Luther, calling him the most remarkable German genius. And Protestant pastors embraced Hitler's ideas, helping disseminate Nazi ideology rapidly among German believers through distorted interpretations of Protestant and Catholic teachings. Despite Hitler's public image of rejecting religion, he relied heavily on the Protestant church and anti-cult movements of his time. This leads us to the birth of one of the most important precursors of modern anti-cultism, the Apologetics Center, founded in 1921. Officially, the center's task was to monitor other religious movements and inform Protestant communities. In reality, it began collecting data on sects, movements, circles, and associations, forming the earliest anti-cult archives. In 1932, Pastor Walter Kunneth, an anti-Semite and editor-in-chief of the Protestant publication Word and Deed, took charge. Anti-cult activity intensified. The center targeted anthroposophy, Darwinism, monism, spiritualism, occultism, and other movements the Protestant Church viewed as competitors. Their methods were inherited directly from the Inquisition. On April 26, 1933, Kunneth presented a report titled "The Church and the Jewish Question" to the Federal Church Office in Berlin. In it, he called for the elimination of Jewry, describing Jews as a foreign cell in the body of Germany. This report became one of the most influential documents in legitimizing Nazi anti-Semitic policies. On December 16, 1933, the Gestapo noticed and praised the methods of the Apologetics Center. From that point on, Kunneth aligned fully with Hitler in efforts to eradicate Jewish influence and suppress minority religious and political groups. He wrote that, "The Gestapo expressed great interest in the Apologetics Center's archive of sects, and in our work against free thought, Marxism, and Bolshevism." He confirmed that an exchange of materials between the center and the Gestapo had already begun. Soon, the Apologetics Center was supplying the Imperial Ministry of the Interior, the Ministry of Propaganda, and the Gestapo with detailed records of various religious communities. Historian Horst Junginger documented the rapid expansion. 150 groups profiled in 1931, 250 groups by 1933, 500 groups by 1936, each one labeled dangerous. Researchers note that the radical views of Protestant leaders and early anti-cultists formed long before Hitler's own extremism. Hitler, they write, followed Luther's exact instructions against the Jews. The nature of German national movements, Nazism itself, was fundamentally shaped by church anti-Semitism. After its creation in 1933, the Gestapo immediately adopted practices and documentation systems from the Apologetics Center. Radical pastors pushed the Gestapo to use even harsher methods. In 1942, Bavarian evangelical Lutheran pastor Friedrich Auer demanded a new Bartholomew's Night, during which no surviving Jews should be spared. Notably, these religious leaders were never prosecuted after the war. Walter Künneth himself was never prosecuted for collaboration with the Gestapo or his anti-Semitic work. Instead, he received the Maximilian Order for Science and Art, the Bavarian Order of Merit, became a professor of Protestant theology at the University of Erlangen, and was granted the honorary title of church counselor. After the war, society believed Nazism had ended. Yet in 1964, the Protestant Church reinstated the position of Commissioner for Sex and Faith Issues, appointing Friedrich Wilhelm Hack, the successor to Künneth's ideological legacy. Hack studied theology in the same environment where Künneth had taught. In the 1970s, he revived a Nazi-era name for the Anti-Cult Department, the Department for Religious and Ideological Affairs. He rejected the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. He declared, "We do not have the right to allow the others to continue in their faith."
Under his guidance, anti-sect lectures resumed in Bavaria, a region historically aligned with Nazi thinking. Bavaria still uses sect filters, contrary to German and international law. By 1988, cries of "Hang them, shoot them all, Heil Hitler" were once again heard in Bavaria at anti-sect gatherings.
Hack helped fellow anti-cultist Johannes Agard establish the Dialogue Center in 1973. Despite its peaceful name, it functioned as a Christian anti-cult organization targeting totalitarian sects. Agard mocked the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, calling it a neurosis. One of Agard and Hack's key students was Alexander Dvorkin. During exile, Dvorkin worked closely with them and adopted their Nazi-era methods. His St. Irenaeus of Lyons Center, created in 1993, mirrors the structure of Künneth's Apologetics Center. Today, the Russian Association of Centers for the Study of Religions and Sects, REICH, is the ideological center of modern anti-cultism. Its influence has spread to China, France, Germany, and beyond, shaping laws, courts, and law enforcement frameworks. Fekris in Paris stands as one of the main representatives of this international network. Despite claiming to uphold human rights, anti-cult groups repeatedly engage in illegal actions. Deliberate slander, incitement of interreligious hatred, manipulation, provocation of violence, persecution of innocent groups, and even physical attacks. Dvorkin promotes the same rhetoric as Künneth and Hack. He describes sects as cancerous tumors draining society. He compiles blacklists, just as the Nazis did in 1938 with the Manual for Combating Sects. His lists use identical emotional, dehumanizing language, labeling groups as zombies, slaves, beasts. Millions worldwide have already been branded as sectarians. Reinhard Heydrich's directive during the Third Reich ordered the cleansing, confiscation, dissolution, and arrest of all individuals tied to targeted organizations, with all to be sent to concentration camps. Today, anti-cultists use the same system of lists, denunciations, and pseudo-expert opinions to justify investigations, prosecutions, and assaults. The ideology never disappeared. It merely changed form. Modern global anti-cultism has inherited Nazi methods, expanded them, and refined them. Its goal is the same: the destruction of democratic values and the creation of a unified Fourth Reich. What you have just heard are the documented facts, the direct line of continuity from Luther to Künneth, from Hack to Agard, from Agard to Dvorkin, and from them to Reichirs and Fekris. History is repeating itself. It is time to pull back the veil of power, and expose what stands behind it.